Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining, and today is a pretty special one. Tomorrow, WWE comes to us from Los Angeles, California. We have the Money in the Bank show as well as the Lucha Libre AAA colliding with WWE earlier in the day. I believe that will be on YouTube. But in honor of that, you've probably seen part one of my top 10 favorite matches from Los Angeles. This is part two. Get started with part two. There is a birthday today, June the 6th. Today is the day of the Scottish Warrior, Drew McIntyre. Be sure to check out my top 10 favorite Drew matches from last year. I will be putting that in the cards. But for now, let's get started with the review of my top 10 favorite matches from Los Angeles. This is part two. Let's start off with number 10. We have JBL versus Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day 2004. The build-up for this match made the match itself great. Sometimes build-ups are just as important as the match itself. And this match was built on the fact that JBL was a bit of a racist heel. One of the things that made him so special as a heel, he attacked Eddie Guerrero, WWE champion at the time, attacking people like Eddie Guerrero, making statements about Hispanics being thrown back into the border. Of course, this would pave the way for Zeb Colter and the We the People angle in WWE's 2013. However, this match got really personal when JBL caused Eddie's mother to have a heart attack. So this had become personal. And ironically, every time we go to Judgment Day is not a good pay-per-view for JBL, thankfully. And in Judgment Day, he likes to bust people open with steel chairs. Eddie Guerrero in 2004 and John Cena the next year in 2005. Of course, this match would end up with Eddie taking chair shots, clothesline from hell, and powerbomb. Eddie was bleeding profusely, but he kept coming back, and he eventually got himself disqualified accidentally by using chairs against JBL. Of course, he used the championship as well, and JBL got the beating he deserved. This match was so enjoyable if JBL was the guy you loved to hate, like I did. It was enjoyable. Check it out. Next at number 9, we have Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle at Unforgiven 2002. This match was just about competition and grudge. Of course, Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle always do well together. Kurt Angle called Chris Benoit one of his greatest rivals on non-professional events. For obvious reasons, due to tragedy in 2007, we can't officially put this on channels like WWE's The Vault, but nonetheless, it can probably be found on Daily Motion, something like that. But you gotta watch this match. It was good. Of course, Kurt Angle, being a heel, tried to cheat to win, but Chris Benoit beat him to it. And now it's very funny how the heels complain when the babyface does something that the heel was going to do all along. Here's something you will find on WWE's YouTube channel and probably The Vault next month as we get ready for SummerSlam. And that is Christian versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2011 for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a match that came after Christian won the match by getting Randy Orton disqualified because of his own anger. But this was no holds barred. Thankfully, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. is still alive, so Christian Cage doesn't pick on dead dads again. However, Christian made a mistake by spitting on Randy Orton before attempting the concerto and failing. And Randy Orton lost it. He went crazy on Christian, RKOing Christian onto the stairs, and proving what happens when you piss off a viper. Let's go back 2 years later, go forward 2 years later, rather. We have CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2013 with Paul Heyman on the side of Brock Lesnar. Because 12 years ago, Paul Heyman betrayed CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2013, and now 12 years later at WrestleMania, Paul Heyman, or should I say Penguin Heyman, betrayed CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Ooh, Paul Heyman has a lot coming to him. And if we haven't learned by now, there's two things we should know about Paul Heyman. Number one, you can't trust him. Number two, he eventually turns on you. And while you're trusting him for 5 minutes, just know that the guy is going to stare at you all day, and it is very uncomfortable. Of course, this match between Brock and CM Punk was a great match. Even though Brock Lesnar won the match, CM Punk put on a great showing, and Brock did not need Paul Heyman's help with the interference. And thanks to CM Punk getting his focus distracted by Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar won the match via F5 onto a steel chair. But there were times where CM Punk almost had this match won. But check it out. It's a great match. And a great reminder why you can't trust Heyman ever again. You penguin. Just kidding. Moving forward, we're still on Brock Lesnar. We have Brock Lesnar versus Bryan Danielson at Survivor Series 2018. This match was also accompanied by Penguin Heyman. And this was a lesson in why you shouldn't mock Brock Lesnar, because ironically, both men in this main event were villains. Brock Lesnar being Raw's Universal Champion, Bryan Danielson being WWE SmackDown World Heavyweight Champion. Bryan Danielson mocked Brock Lesnar and went to Suplex City and took an F5. I thought this was going to be over very quick, to be honest with you, but it actually turned out to be a pretty good match because Bryan Danielson went low, which is what his heel turn started on. A running knee crossface made famous by Chris Benoit, and Brock Lesnar came back, took him back to Suplex City, F5, won the match, won the main event, and Raw gave a clean sweep for Survivor Series SmackDown vs. Raw that year. Next on this list, we have Money in the Bank at number 5. We have Money in the Bank WrestleMania 21. This featured Edge, Christian, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, the Standard of Excellence, Shelton Benjamin, Kane in this match. Of course, one of the highlights of this match was Shelton Benjamin running up the ladder and doing a flying clothesline onto Chris Jericho, one of the top moments of that match. Eventually, Edge would win this match, taking a steel chair to Chris Benoit's arm, causing Benoit to fall. Edge would become the winner of the first Money in the Bank ladder match, a match that was put together by Chris Jericho, though Chris Jericho never won one. Next on this list at number 4, we go back to Brock Lesnar as he fights The Undertaker for the second time inside Hell in a Cell at 2015's event from Los Angeles. This was a match that came because the streak ended. And if we had known, by the way, Brock Lesnar has a new hairstyle that looks pretty good if you haven't seen it. He took a picture with his wife, Sable, and someone else, and he had a new cool hairstyle. It looks like Thor. Of course, we haven't seen Brock Lesnar due to the fact that there has been a scandal involving him and Vince McMahon. And John Laurinaitis has taken a plea deal and has agreed to tell all. Back to the matter at hand, we have this match that was born of The Undertaker avenging Brock Lesnar, not only defeating the streak, but sending Paul Heyman to brag week after week and month after month. They had a match at SummerSlam, which was awesome, but it was tainted. A tainted victory by The Undertaker. The Undertaker had turned into a bit of a ball buster at the time. So at Hell in a Cell, they decided to settle the score to see who was going to settle the rivalry. Of course, they brought out their best moves. Undertaker brought the Tombstone, but that wasn't enough. Fun fact, Brock Lesnar has kicked out of every tombstone given by The Undertaker. And of course, The Undertaker was getting ready to go for another one, but Brock gave The Undertaker a taste of his own medicine when he went low, gave an F5, and won the Hell in a Cell match, settling the score and the rivalry. Ironically, though Brock Lesnar was a heel when he broke the streak, by the time they rekindled their rivalry in 2015, both men were fan favorites. And fun fact, Brock has been inside Hell in a Cell twice, both times against The Undertaker, both times successful, accompanied by Penguin Heyman. Next at number 3, we go to recent times. We have Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa at Raw on Netflix premiere January 6th, earlier this year. Bars. Of course, this match was about the Ulafala because Solo took it without earning it. And so eventually the OTC came back after his loss at WrestleMania and started a feud with the Bloodline 2.0. And we saw members of the Bloodline 2.0 get involved. We even saw Kevin Owens get involved to help Solo Sikoa because of his grudge with Roman Reigns. However, we saw Cody Rhodes come not necessarily to the defense of Roman, but come to get him some of then rival Kevin Owens. Eventually, after everyone interfered on the behalf of Roman Reigns and Solo, eventually Roman Reigns would get the victory and get respect by the final boss, The Rock. Of course, I need these two to go up against each other. I know most people don't endorse family warfare, but this is a dream match that I would like to see before the good Lord calls us home. This is just me. Next on this list from the same night, we have CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins at the main event of the Raw premiere. This was a WrestleMania field match because it was well documented that these two men had real life problems, and those real life problems were brought onto the script. And eventually they had a match against each other, and this was their first. Some of the best places to have a good match against a person is in Madison Square Garden, which they did, and LA. This was their first one in LA. It did not disappoint at all. If you've seen it, you know how good it was. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I had the pleasure of reviewing the first night on Raw on Netflix, the night that Hulk Hogan got booed, surprisingly. Of course, this was the main event of Raw, and it was awesome. I had the pleasure of reviewing it, and eventually it would be CM Punk who would win the match against Seth Rollins. Their rivalry, by the way, continues today with Paul Heyman staring Seth Rollins to death. Now let's go to number 1. We have Johnny Gargano versus Aleister Black, now back in WWE and SmackDown, at NXT TakeOver War Games 2018. This was a grudge match that came after Johnny Gargano was revealed as the man who attacked him on the outside. We thought it was Tommaso Ciampa, and we were supposed to get Ciampa versus Gargano versus Aleister Black for the championship, the NXT championship, at the time held by Ciampa. Unfortunately, we did not get that match because of the attack. It came that Johnny Gargano did it, which led to a great match at War Games, a match won by Aleister Black. That's my top 10 favorite matches of Los Angeles, California. What was your favorite match from the City of Angels? Let me know in the comments below. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and that's all the time I have for you today, and I will see you guys next time. And also be sure to check out my top 10 favorite matches from today's birthday guy, Drew McIntyre. See you next time, folks.